All right. Thank you guys. Excited to talk to you all a little bit about Haleon and the journey that Haleon's been on, especially around purpose and loyalty and how does that affect retail. So, thank you, Amy, for joining. So, Haleon, it's been, what, under 2 years as a new company, diverse from GSK. Talk a little bit about what that journey's been like and perhaps what was the intention behind that and how does that keep you guys more focused?
Sure. So thank you for having me. And I was able to join the dinner last night with many of you, which was lovely. But I'm really excited to talk about Haleon. And if you don't know who Haleon is, that's okay, because we're only 2 years old. We actually make brands like Advil, Sensodyne, Tums, Robitussin, Centrum, hopefully brands that you may have in your medicine cabinet or even in your bags as you walk around these conferences. So the journey that I've been on, just to give it a little bit of a history, so I've been with some form of the company for 21 plus years. So I started at Wyeth, back with Tim. Wyeth was acquired by Pfizer, so the OTC division. In 2019, Pfizer spun the OTC division off to GSK and we went into a joint venture with GSK, knowing that in roughly a 2 to 3 year time period, they would want to spin us off as a standalone CPG company, which is unique because in all of that history, we had been under some umbrella of a pharmaceutical company and had been a smaller portion of the business when we had been under that larger pharma umbrella. So while I've always worked for a human-focused business, this is the first time as we became Haleon that we really shifted from patient-centric to truly being able to be consumer-centric. And I will say we spent a lot of work, even before we knew we were going to be Haleon, in terms of what did we want our culture to be. Past companies I've named, Wyeth, Pfizer, GSK, all great companies that I've worked for with great cultures. So we were able to talk about what part of that culture did we want to bring along with us, and what did we want to change? What did we want to be different? And I think that was really important because in those conversations, then that helped to form the mission, visions, and values that we now have as Haleon. And I think one of the things that I know I'm most passionate about, as well as all of my colleagues, is our mission to empower better everyday health.
That's great. I love that shift of focus from patients to consumers, which is a huge shift. As part of that, I know that you guys have focused a lot on purpose. How has that come to life at Haleon? And specifically, how do you choose which purpose for which brand, and how do your product and portfolios fit into that strategy?
So I don't even know if I got a chance to say exactly what my role is within Haleon, but I run shopper engagement in the US, which is all of our shopper marketer and that team, many of whom are co-located with our retailers. I also have responsibility for our Shopper Science Lab, which is a state-of-the-art facility we have in our headquarters in Warren, New Jersey, which allows us to bring both customers and shoppers in to do research. I have the responsibility of bringing the power of our portfolio together for our shoppers, which I know we'll talk about a little bit this morning. But I also get to represent the work that the US does for everyday health with humanity across the globe, and hopefully help to inspire and continue the great work that our US marketing organization has done in that regard. A little bit about that mission. So as we declared ourselves Haleon, we said one of our goals, one of our North Stars was we wanted to empower people to better everyday health. And we actually set a target of 50 million by 2025. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think we had like a very clear path on how we would get to that 50 million people. But I think we just released our annual report last week, and we are well on our way to hitting that target based on what we hit in 2023, and we redeclared that we still believe we will hit that by 2025. And the way that we want to do that is by making healthcare more accessible, more inclusive, more sustainable, and really break down the barriers that many people have today, that we know they have today, to actually get to better everyday health. And that's created a North Star for our marketing. It allows us to go beyond just sales and share in terms of what we're fighting for. It's really fighting for those consumers and those people to get to better everyday health. When I talk about it's allowed us to do things differently, I think I'll first highlight something that we did, a collaboration with Microsoft and their Seeing AI app. So We know there's, millions in the US who are visually impaired or have low vision. It's a real struggle to read those labels on our products, like a Centrum or an Advil or the dosing of it. So we partnered with Microsoft so that a consumer just simply has to scan the barcode, scan the product, and it will actually read the label to them. So that's something that we've never really done before, but it's allowed us to explore new solutions, not just with the current tools, but to really seek out those partnerships to do that. The other one I'll talk about, and I think we'll play a video in just a moment, is on TheraFlu. So during the pandemic, I think many of us realized what a privilege it was that we had to be able to continue to work and do our jobs from home and get paid. But we also saw that there were many people that if they did not actually go to work, they didn't get paid. And if they got sick and had to stay home, they weren't getting paid. So TheraFlu actually created a campaign back in 2022 called the TheraFlu Rest and Recover campaign. And in the first year that we launched, we empowered over 2.5 million people to either apply for a micro grant to actually be able to, if they were not entitled to sick pay, they could apply for a micro grant to actually get the funds that they were foregoing by not going to work that day, so they could take the time to stay home and rest and recover. But we empowered millions of people with that campaign, and we actually have just taken it to the next level, including advocacy as well. So I think if we play the video, it'll give you a little flavor.
15 U.S. states have paid sick day laws. In the other 35, if you miss a day, you may miss your pay. We're sick of working sick.
So you can see there, this actually allows consumers to very simply go on the website and actually quickly write a letter to their senator in their state advocating for paid sick leave for those in their state. So regardless of whether you have it or don't, you can become an advocate as part of this program. And with this, we continue, so you see these are not one and done campaigns for us. We're really looking for them to be evergreen, and how do we continue to do more with them year after year.
Yeah, I love that. Also, I think what's great is you've got a great insight there about for the consumers, not just about I want to feel well, it's about what really happens when they're sick. Is the real worry is not just getting better, it's the fact that I have to get better in order to pay for my rent, my family, things of that nature. I think it's a good bridge into having deeper purpose for that brand. I do think a lot of brands struggle with that. Like, and some brands have said, do I really need purpose for my deodorant, for example? But your category is a category that generally does help people, so it does lend itself to really needing purpose. Do you feel that every brand in the portfolio has purpose? And what is your journey on that, like that?
Yeah, and it's definitely been a journey. I don't think every brand has really found their authentic purpose yet, but we are working towards that. And it doesn't mean that every single brand in our portfolio is going to have a purpose. And we're honestly looking at where can we combine some of the brands and the power there to make some of these purposes even more relevant. For example, we have TheraFlu in the portfolio. We also have Robitussin and Advil Cold and Sinus, which are also products that can help people to recover so that they can get back to work. So how do we pull that together, our upper respiratory platform? I'll talk a little bit about Advil because they've been on a journey and actually just launched their campaign for Believe My Pain. So, and again, this has been a journey, I've been a part of it, and I won't go through all the iterations of it that they had, but I think it's been an opportunity for the brand to really think about how can they have the most impact through one of these campaigns. And through the research, obviously we've learned, and this has been something that we've heard quite a lot about, that Black pain is often misdiagnosed, mistreated, not heard, and it's a systemic issue in terms of bias and prejudice that exists within our healthcare system. And so what we've done is not only raise awareness of that through this campaign, but we're actually working with the Morehouse School of Medicine as well as Black Health to develop. We've had grants with them, and we're developing courses to actually train way back where the education begins within medical school to make sure that bias and prejudice is not trained for, and it's actually, they're made aware of it so that hopefully we start treating this differently as we move forward. And I think we have a little video on that one to share too.
I was diagnosed with sickle cell anemia at birth. Around 2 years ago, I started experiencing one of my flare-ups, and I was having very, very bad full body pains. The nurse asked me my pain level, and I told her 10 out of 10. So she was like, okay, I'll go bring the doctor in. He said if it was really a 10 out of 10, you wouldn't be talking. Even when he was looking at me crying, he wasn't looking at me with any type of emotion or any type of sympathy. My name is Reibrich. Believe me when I say, my cries are visible, my pain is invisible. Both have been ignored.
So really powerful, her story. We have many stories like that. It's actually heartbreaking to hear some of them. And more to come on this campaign, but it's something that the entire organization, and I think going back to your question, it comes from our leadership team. I mean, our GM of North America, our CMO, all the way up to our CEO of Haleon are really, this is part of who we are. It's not a nice to have, it's part of who we are as an organization moving forward. So it's something that we're building into all our brand planning as we move forward because it's part of who we are as an organization.
I love that. And just follow up specifically on that case study itself. I mean, one, you didn't approach this only through, segmenting your audiences and only going after Black consumers, right? This was a general market campaign, is that right?
Yeah, and like I said, we're tapping into advocacy through our government affairs, making sure that folks within our government offices know that this is an issue and how can they help support it. We have an expert sales force that has been out there detailing brands like Sense9 and Advil. How do we enlist them to start telling these stories as well? But it goes back to that. We really realized we needed to go back to the education, and that's why we're developing this course. And as we do that, then we can figure out how we can transcend it through some of the other channels and outreach that we have as an organization.
And you guys didn't just execute this only as a TVC spot, right? This was executed through the line, all the way in store as well, right?
Yeah, we actually have displays at retail. Several of our retailers have them. And we've realized that purpose is really important to them as well. So they're really willing to partner with us in new and different ways to get some of this messaging out. And again, to create some of that advocacy. Perhaps, you may not be one of the people who are suffering, but we want to create the advocates to help along the way as well. So that's part of the in-store activation.
And what was the merchant conversations like? Were the retailers on board with this? How did they support the program?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting. I think it's opened doors up to allow us to talk to other people within our retailers and other teams within our retailers that we might not normally interact with on a day-to-day basis. We might be interacting with the media teams from the retail media side of the house. We might be interacting with, obviously, the buyers. But some of this work has connected us to the sustainability team, their inclusivity teams. I mean, even when I highlighted Microsoft Seeing AI, I know that went up to senior levels within many of these retailers because, in all honesty, it's great if Haleon does something like that, but we really need everybody to be doing something like that if we truly want to create the access. So our goal is to help sort of create a grassroots movement, right, to get others to join us in some of these efforts that we've embarked on.
That's great. So shifting gears a bit in terms of thinking about growth and brand strategy, it's interesting because Haleon itself is a new company that has low brand awareness, but your products, obviously, it's a very different story. You're in categories that are fairly mature categories, but high loyalty. How do you focus and balance between brand loyalty and brand awareness?
Yeah, great question. So I often get asked this, and it was interesting. I was over at Chop Talk this morning, and we saw the head of Mattel and the head of film speak about, I'm sure you probably can guess, Barbie, right? And they were talking about, he said, they are a house of brands. They don't necessarily market Mattel, they market the Barbie brand and Hot Wheels and all of the others that they have within their portfolio. For us, the brands are first and foremost. That's the most important. We have started to put Haleon on our products in terms of the logo. You will see it in our advertising when we bring it together, but the brands are still top. They're what we're going at, anything Haleon is secondary. We've really been building Haleon to shareholders and investors who had to launch the company. And I think we do want to build Haleon to some extent with the consumer, but right now the awareness of that is very low, if at all. So we do really focus on the brands. What we've strived to do, and we've done this in partnership with VML, since you are our agency of record on our shopper business, is bring the power of that portfolio together for the consumer. And bring it together in a way that's authentic, that taps into the moments that matter for the consumer, and ideally to provide them some of those tools and solutions to make their lives easier and to understand that these products actually do work together, can be used together, and allow them to think about, hey, if you're in your morning routine, right, and you're brushing your teeth, why not think about taking your vitamin at that same point in time, which we know vitamin adherence is relatively lower than the adherence people have to brushing their teeth every day. Thank gosh they do that. And that is a consumer habit that most are doing, but many will admit to forgetting to take their vitamins. So how do we bring some of the products that we have in the portfolio, like I said, and bring them together in those moments that matter? We designed a campaign called Well Within Reach, which is our shopper campaign. We have about 5 different activations a year, depending on the time of year and what's relevant to the consumer. And one of the ones that we had most of our brands participate in, and really our strongest results to date was just back to school last year. And we partnered with Tamara Mowry as our celebrity influencer for that. And the interaction of her fans with her and our products, and she was a true fan of our products, so she was really excited to partner up with us. But I think we can play a video on that to give you a flavor for that kid.
One of my favorite Tamaraisms is if the bathroom door is closed for business, so am I. Unfortunately, not everyone lives by that rule. But one rule I can try to make us live by is taking our vitamins every day and taking Emergency to support our immune systems. There is no way to keep up with this crazy life without them. And I need to keep up. Thankfully, these guys make it easy. And right about now, I need easy.
Yeah, so she was great. I think we did 8 or 9 different vignettes like that with her with different products. And if you've known her or seen her, this is very authentic to her and sort of her humor and how she talks and all that. So again, bringing 2 products, like we've never done advertising that's brought Centrum and Emergency together, right? So being able to do this in this authentic way worked really well for us as part of that campaign.
That's great. I mean, it's been a fun project too, because sometimes companies, when you get asked to do scale programs, the products that those companies own sometimes don't really match together. So like, what is ketchup and like toilet bowl cleaner, and like how do I put these together and make it work? But I think what helps is you guys are a very purpose-driven company focused on wellness. So that focus, I think, makes it really easy to be able to do scale events that like this one that are meaningful and have a central theme, which is great. All right, last question. So in the kind of crazy world that we're in with retail media and there's hundreds of different touch points to reach consumers, how are you guys thinking about reaching consumers in new ways and impactful ways along the path of purchase?
Yeah, and it's great. There's so many ways to reach the consumer now. We always do start with our deep human understanding, so really understanding that consumer, what makes them tick. We also leverage our science, our expert-backed science. So a great example is we recently had a study come out on Cosmos, which was really talked about the cognitive improvements that you might see from taking a multivitamin every day and helping to improve your memory. That has been a huge game changer for a brand like Centrum, who's a brand that's well over 30 years old. But that sort of science-backed news not only fuels Centrum, but it also fuels the entire category for vitamins. And vitamins, sometimes you get good news, bad news, but this has been some really great science news around it. So we're really leveraging that to meet the consumer where they're at, whether it's digital, online, direct emails to them. We're building what we're calling Haleon Huddle to bring the consumers, help to introduce them to, they might come in on Centrum based on that news, but how do we introduce them to some of the other brands in our portfolio that might have meaning to them? So a number of different ways, as I'm sure you all are doing too.
That's great. Do we have time, Tim, for questions, or?
We do, yes.
First, want to say thank you very much for the Believe My Pain campaign, because this is something that has affected our community for God knows how long. My mom got cancer, and that was something that definitely came up, so thank you. But question is, do you have a hard time tying advocacy to sales, and if so, how do you convince the overlords that it's something you should do?
Great question. I think it is, it's been really important that has come from the top, and it's part of our mission, as opposed to us trying to convince people that we need to do this. So like I said, it's really become part of our DNA, which has made it easy now. There's always times when you're trying to juggle sales and budgets and all of that, but we have tried to make the tough decision to make sure that we hold on to those spends and hold on to them in the right way to really advocate for those campaigns. I can't say that we know, hey, if we had done the Advil campaign this way without this, we would have done this versus, I think we're still learning our way into that, but it's really not even a question in our organization anymore. I think if I had gone back 5 years ago, it was a question. If we had something that was purpose, it oftentimes ended up on the cutting room floor. It wasn't that big, or we didn't amplify it because we would cut the media spend behind it. That's no longer the case. That's a priority for us now. So that's been really great. And I will tell you, the engagement of our consumers, sure you all do engagement surveys, that's something that our colleagues feel so proud of and feel a part of. And so we know that we believe it's good for business and the numbers, but it's also really good for our colleagues, so as well as the consumers. So thank you for sharing some of your personal story.
One more question, anybody? Or we can wrap it up. How about a round of applause? That was fantastic.